So if you've mastered the basic granny square and you're not really feeling too confident about trying extra patterns within a granny square, how about trying this book here? This is Pixel Crochet from Hannah Muir, and she has lots of patterns in here for how you can make your granny squares into blankets and cushions. Hello, my name's Karen Stanger and welcome back to Conquer Crochet, and welcome back to the Crochet Couch, where we're going to be looking at this book here. This is Pixel Magic by Hannah Muir. Fabulous book. I actually used it a few years back now in these two videos where I actually talked you through how to put together a crochet project from start to finish, and it was based on the fox design that she has in this book. So you don't just have to do it with big granny squares, you could make them with smaller granny squares so that you could make a cushion. You could even try doing it corner to corner, so you'd have either one corner to corner block representing one square in the pattern, or you could do a section of 4 corner to corner squares, that's not easy to say, to represent one of the granny squares. So it's really tricky not to give too much away with this book. Basically the designs that you get, you're making a granny square. The pattern for the basic granny square is here. I'll also put a link in the description below to my blog where I have how to make a basic granny square, and there are videos all about granny squares in the granny square playlist, which I will link below. So basically the pattern is a grid, and you make the number of granny squares in a particular colour and you end up with a pixel picture. So for example, with the bunny cushion, they've made it with the smaller granny squares, and on the side of the pattern then it tells you you need so many granny squares in the purple, so many in white, so many in the peach colour, and so many in black, pink, etc. And they do that for each pattern. Now if you wanted to make it a cushion, you could do the same number of little mini squares on the back of the cushion, or you could make one big granny square to go on the back of the cushion. Entirely up to you. It could even be a completely solid, just a double crochet, UK terminology, single crochet in US, completely solid back to that cushion. If you were making it as a wall hanging, you might want to go slightly bigger than the normal size of a granny square, depending on the size of your wall. Equally, you could do the mini granny squares and have a little wall hanging. So think about where you're going to actually use the design and what sort of size you want your finished design to be, and then you just need to make granny squares. You can make these as blankets, you can make them as wall hangings. She has a design in here where you could make a play tent. So if you were looking for something a little bit special as a present for somebody and you didn't just want to make a blanket, you could actually make it as a play tent. She has toy sacks and lots of ideas for different projects that you can use these patterns with. So on Hannah's Instagram page, she just goes out as Hannah Muir. She's a graphic designer, and she describes herself as a novice crocheter, and as I was saying before, once you've nailed the granny square you can make any of the patterns in this book. It really is that simple. It's just a case of making the right number of squares and sewing them together. So I'm going to put a link in the description below, and I'll put a link in the cards, and I'll add them as the videos on the side screen for left-handed and right-handed. My playlist for granny squares where I show you how to make the basic granny square, different ways of joining them together. I do recommend you join them together quite tightly if you're making the ones from this book, particularly for making a blanket, just because you'll lose some of the pattern. How to block your granny squares, and lots of granny chit chat things and recommendations for books that I have over that. Really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. It's free to do so, and you can unsubscribe at any time. Like I said, I will pop the granny square playlist, the right and the left-handed ones, for you on the side of the screen, and I will see you over there. Thank you so much for joining me on this one, and happy hooking!